Hi, thanks for joining today. This video is going to cover off-season tax investing in Arkansas and basically show you how to buy tax deeds in Arkansas during the off-season when there are no annual county auctions going on. We're going to do this showing you a lot of the county sources. Arkansas is a wonderful state compared to others as far as online resources, online training and videos, as well as just inventory tracking and making tax investing easier. We're also going to use a tool called Parcel Fair, since that's the video series is by Parcel Fair. And that's another tool that actually makes things easier for you and lets you invest across county borders and state boundaries with a consistent experience. So let's just dive right in and get started. So if we're talking about the tax auction season in Arkansas, we probably need to take a look at years past and think about when is that auction season and how do we know when the off season even is. So let's talk about 2020. This is so we're in like our fourth year of tracking the Arkansas inventories. So 2020 was the first year we did that, and we were very excited. We started off with the auction season that was announced in January of 2020, and we were gearing up. We had the properties loaded in Parcel Fair. We were doing our research, getting ready to go. And if you remember 2020, the auction season was canceled around April because of COVID. So we never got to even get into the auction season. So all the properties from 2020 just sat there. These are tax delinquent properties that were ready for deed auction. So fast forward to 2021. We were thinking we're going to get a lot of the 2020 properties and get a shot at those. And sure enough, they announced an auction season. It was going to run from July through November, which is a pretty long season. And they were only selling the 2020 offerings, but not the 2021s. So to clarify that, they pulled the 2020 auctions that were canceled forward into 2021, but did not auction the 2021 properties. So it literally was 1 year of properties being auctioned, even though there were 2 years of delinquencies batched up. So again, jump to 2022, and they did announce an even longer auction season from March through November. And the reason was they were selling all the 2021 properties that were left over because they didn't do any of the auctions that year for 2021. They only sold 2020s. And so now we had a rolling combined 2 years of 2021 and 2022 tax deeds going to auction. So that was 2022. There were a lot of auctions. It was a long season. They did actually adjust the season back to March through September. So that you see, this is kind of a moving target. So it's hard to predict based on those 3 years what does a normal year look like. So fortunately, we have now seen the announcement for 2023. The auction season has been announced to run from July through September. So right now there are dates, but the property lists have not been released yet. And this is actually handled by the state. The Commission of State Lands is the department that handles all of the annual auctions for these tax deeds, as well as the over-the-counter inventory that comes after that. But I'm getting ahead of myself. So to answer our main question here, so when is the tax investing off-season in Arkansas? Again, it's hard to say in a typical year given the 4 years we've looked at. So let's just talk about going forward. If 2023 is any indication, it looks like the tax deed auction season is going to be taking place from July through September of each year. And again, the Arkansas Commissioner of State Lands website shows those auction dates and lists. This site is going to be one of your best friends. It's probably the best I've seen as far as states putting information out there to help investors and sell properties. So backing up there, that leaves a tax deed auction off season that runs from October through June. So again, October through June, you have this 9-month period where there's really no auctions to buy from. So that we're going to call that the off season. So right now we're in the middle of the off season. So let's talk about what does that mean as terms of the life cycle of a tax deed in Arkansas. How does something become a tax deed? As with any state, it starts off with a house being tax delinquent. And basically what happens is they have an annual tax deed auction. Every county has one of these for the most part. Some counties even get multiple auctions if there's enough properties. like last year in 2022. And as we just talked about, July through September, and these are tax deeds. They have a 10 business day redemption period, so you don't count weekends when you're counting the 10-day redemption period. This is probably maybe the most aggressive redemption period that I've seen states do. This is very appealing for investors because states could sometimes have redemption periods that last for years. So 10 days is very aggressive. And the format of the annual tax deed auction is premium bid. So that just means, it's just a fancy way of saying if I bid the minimum amount, you would come in and bid higher than that, and we would bid a premium against the auction bid until the highest bidder wins once everybody else is finished. So it's a premium bid auction, and all those leftovers go to an over-the-counter tax deed inventory. And this is that October through June period where you're shopping out of that inventory while there are no other auctions going on. And again, that's the tax deed auction leftovers. These also come with a 10 business day redemption period, and you purchase them from the Commissioner of State Lands that I mentioned before. So here's where it gets interesting in Arkansas. In most states, when you buy over the counter, it's kind of a traditional, literally going to the county and buying direct, or going to the state and buying direct, maybe through a quote process, or just buying whatever the price is on the list. Arkansas did that for years, but in July of 2021, they changed the process, and we did a video on that. It's been about a year and a half, and what they did was they took the online purchases, which were very efficient at the time. We saw so much inventory moving quickly through the system because you could just put in a request for a quote. Within a minute, you had a quote, and you could immediately buy it if you were ready, or you could do your due diligence and wait a little bit and buy it. But the friction was very low to purchase. So in July of 2021, they actually changed that. So if you find a property that you want to buy over the counter, instead of just performing the transaction and buying the property, what happens now is you put in the first bid that kicks off a single property auction, an auction for that one property, and that kicks off a 30-day online auction for that property, and it is also premium bid. So it would start off at like the assessed value, a tax value of the property. So if you bid $1,000 as the minimum bid on a property, somebody could come in and bid $2,000, and so forth and so on for the 30 days on this online auction until at the end of it expires and the highest bidder gets the property. So this upset a lot of our users because it really was a free-for-all before this process. You could buy properties for very cheap, a few $100s, and get a 10-day redemption and own the property. And now this new process actually, it gets you can see why Arkansas did it. They get a lot more revenue recovered. They're able to use those proceeds probably to keep up their website and their awesome tools. That comes in expense. So that gives you an idea of where you're buying these properties. Again, your annual tax deed auctions, you're buying July through September. The rest of the year, you're buying over the counter, but you're buying them in these little single property auctions. Okay? So let's go take a look at some of this. I'm going to give you a live demo of buying OTC properties from Arkansas. And where better to start than the Arkansas Commissioner of State Lands website. So again, this website's going to be one of your best friends. From this page, you can see Mr. Tommy Land smiling over here. And we have several options on the page to go through, and you see a buyer's guide, the laws, regulations, online auction brochure, just some great resources here. On the right side panel, there's actually videos that are helpful about researching tax delinquent real estate, the unsold properties that I just told you about, those what we call over-the-counter properties, those leftovers. So all of that you can get to on this website. One of the biggest distinctions here is probably these two pieces on the right. The public auction catalog, these are those annual sales I told you about that have a premium bid. These auctions are typically in person as far as I know, and you would be the first chance to buy a tax deed before it goes into the over-the-counter inventory. This second link they call the post-auction sales. Those are those single property auctions I was telling you about, where you look at the leftovers and initiate an auction. So let's look at another tab here. This is the public auction catalog. So these are the auctions coming up next year in 2023, or really just in a few months. And you'll notice that the counties have different dates listed, but no properties yet. So we're waiting to see what happens there once they list those. One of the cool things about Arkansas is you can also click on past sale results, and a lot of states you have to pay money for this, but in Arkansas it looks like you can just go see the results from previous auctions, which is pretty cool actually. So beyond that, that represents those July through September auctions. Let's look at the post-auction sales as well while we're here. This is the page for that, and these are the single property auctions I told you about. There are wonderful 5 videos here to help you out, some other resources, and then you can actually see the properties listed here on the website and get an idea of what's going on. So let's move on a little bit further. And now what I want to do is show you looking at a list of those properties and searching in Parcel Fair. Again, if you're familiar with Parcel Fair, we cover a lot of states. Arkansas was our 3rd state, I think, that we added. But it gives you this reporting experience where we can go over to this map and look at the entire state at once. And right now, I have properties loaded on the screen. And so we could just dive right into Little Rock and take a look at some of these blue outline properties. The blue outline just means it's a tax deed. And we can get a little preview of where the property is, the acreage, what's on the property, and we can just keep popping windows open as much as we want. And it gives you that nice satellite browse view. Right now I'm looking at the simpler map, the color-wise, because it's good contrast, but you can actually switch over. Arkansas is a very green state. It's very pretty from the satellite. Lots of trees, lakes. So here's a development called, I think it's Hot Springs area. And these are properties around a lake. These are undeveloped lots that are hanging out there that you could take a look at. And so this is how you might explore an area of Arkansas. And let's see, I can also show you the searches here. If you wanted to do something like minimum total value of $10,000, and maybe you just wanted anything with 5 acres minimum, you could do searches like that and save yourself a lot of time. You could even filter by county if you want to get real specific. So let's move on, and I'm going to show you a few properties that were in the 2022 tax deed auction that were left over, and how to go buy those. So this first one, it looks like a commercial property that probably had a fire, so it could be some potential there. I don't know. I can't. I've never seen this property in person, but you can see our report. We have a street view. You could do a panoramic view. I'll show you one of those in a minute on a different property. Another view of the satellite imagery. You can see that it's part of this shopping center. And one of the most important pieces, we have the purchase option here. Every property we show you in Parcel Fair, we're going to explain to you how to buy it. We're not going to show you a property that we don't know how to buy. So we have instructions for Arkansas. Here's that notice. We'll probably take that down pretty soon since it's been a year and a half. But for people who are new to the new bidding system, we try to let you know that you're going to need to continue to the Arkansas application. And let's just go ahead and do that. So now we're looking at the property on the Commissioner of State Lands website, and you can see it's the same property, descriptions, satellite, everything. And we see a starting bid on the right-hand side where we can essentially start the bid. And again, Arkansas is great. There's a lot of little helpers like this, well designed to help you out. If there were other people bidding on this property, you would see the bid history right here would have a list of that. So you can basically, this is where you manage those individual property auctions. And let's move on to another property then. So this one's interesting because it's a residential property, and where Google decided to give us a street view, it's kind of concealed in the woods. So what I wanted to show you is how we can do a little scouting even though I'm physically not in Arkansas right now. So giving just a look around the neighborhood, and remember this is the property, we can barely see the outline through the trees. So we're just going to take a little drive down the street and using my arrow keys on my keyboard. And you can start to see that house on the corner now. I can zoom in, take a look as much as the imagery lets me. And let's drive one more click up the street. And now we can zoom in and see there's some damage to the house. It's probably in worse shape now because these images are not real time. This was a while back. And so it gives us something to go on, though, if we have any interest in maybe scouting the property in person and taking a look at it. And so here we are back at Parcel Fair. That's just one more piece of information to look at. We have the valuations from the state. They provide great data for that. And some PIN numbers, account numbers, the address. We can tell that it's an occupied address because the Postal Service says it's an occupied address. And if we wanted to keep track of this property, we could add the favorite right here. And just some other organizational tools I could track. I could add it to a list if I wanted to. I could track some notes on the property if I wanted to say roof damage or something like that notes for me later. Just things that would help my research for keeping track of what I know about this property for later. And then lastly, we have these research links on the right-hand panel on every property. These will take you to, this one goes to the Commissioner of State Lands, just different resources for you to do further research, maybe comps on the property, things of that nature. Let's just check out a few more properties, and then I want to show you some other oddities in the inventory, just things that we've learned over the years. Here's another property. This one's residential. Actually looks pretty nice from the street view I can see here. We can tell that it's 0.18 acres, and again, the satellite view, just very similar to the previous consistency. Another one, this is this red house. It's an occupied property address from 2022, and it's in an opportunity zone, which could be important for you if you are maybe you are flipping houses to investors that want to buy in opportunity zones, or maybe you personally want to shop in opportunity zones for tax reasons. And this indicates that on the screen for you, so you know what you're looking at. A couple more. So we'll check out, we have a trailer here on the corner that could be of interest if that's part of your strategy. And this one I included just because I wanted to point out sometimes the Google card doesn't go to the neighborhood, so we can't get a street view. But this satellite view is pretty clear that there's a rooftop. So this is the kind of property that maybe some people pass over, but if you have a way to scout it or have someone drive out to Eudora, Arizona, maybe you could get the scoop on this property and decide if you want to bid on it on one of those single property auctions. So I'm going to switch gears and talk about something. A lot of inventories are kind of distributed where you see larger counties have more of the properties. The over-the-counter properties in Arkansas are very lopsided, though, so I wanted to point this out to you, and there's a reason I'll get to. You can see the other properties, we have a grouping of a bunch of counties, only have 250 properties total. And then picking up at Saline, you have 63s and then into the 70s. And moving up all the way to Van Buren, you're starting to get a larger number of properties. So again, Van Buren has about 12% of all those OTC tax deeds. Sharp County has about 26%, but moving up, Fulton County has 49% of all the Arkansas over-the-counter tax deed inventory, which is odd. And another way to look at that, you can see Fulton County here has most of the pie. We have Sharp and Van Buren have decent makeup, and then the other counties, the rest of the counties in the state, only have 13% of the inventory. And it's sort of puzzling, but we've learned a few things about this, and actually, I really hope that someone listening knows about Fulton County and some of the problems there, because it's a real mystery to us. Having 49% of the properties, what I wanted to point out to you is they don't have GIS data at the state, county, or anywhere that we can find, which means if you don't have GIS data, you can't look at it on a map. So in Parcel Fair, if you run a search on Fulton County on the map, you're not going to find anything. There's literally no mapping data. So I've pulled up the 4,422 properties right here, and you can see Arkansas, Fulton County in our search filters here. And there's not a lot we can tell you about these properties because there's, again, no mapping data. We can't tell you the acreage, and we really can't tell you much about it. But we can tell you the amount due and the delinquent year and whatever the state publishes. And another piece of this that we've learned is a lot of these properties are located in something called Cherokee Village. And I think Cherokee Village, it must be a development or something that you can see here, sorry. The amount due on these are larger, that's why I sorted. But it's an interesting thing to me. We literally went to some map data providers and people that sell mapping data, and we sampled what they had in Fulton County, but even those companies did not have map data for these particular parcels. So it's very odd. It could be that the parcels were rezoned or redrawn or something like that, and it's just an odd thing. So again, if someone knows what's going on in Fulton County, if it's your little hidden secret, I get it. But if you don't mind sharing with the rest of us, drop it in the comments and tell us what that looks like, because with half of the state's inventory there, it's probably a nice little niche for somebody, assuming these lots are of value and something worth pursuing. So just wanted to drop that in the video, and if you live near Fulton County, you should check it out. Maybe you could figure this out and have a nice opportunity. And before I close out the video, I did want to point out that Arkansas has a couple other ways that you could buy over the counter. And from our research, we did find in Little Rock there is a land bank. So this is the land bank's website. If you're not familiar with land banks, it's usually when a city gets exclusive rights, or at least some level of competitive rights to a property that is in distress, and they're able to sell it maybe for cheaper, or somehow put it into the hands of someone who can rehabilitate the property, maybe rejuvenate the neighborhood a little bit. And so this is a special program, and you can see they publish a PDF of their inventory that looks like they're a little behind. October 2022 is the last one, and they have the properties that you could buy from them right here. You can see the title status is included, some details about these are vacant lots mostly, the appraisal value, and the purchase price is important, of course. So this is one other way. If you're in the off season and just looking for land in Arkansas, you could always consider the Little Rock Land Bank. And on that note, there's actually a Jonesboro land bank as well. And I seem to have the worst luck with some of these. I tend to find land banks when they are closed. So I don't know how long this land bank has been closed, but you can see their inventory is being updated, and check back. So this, one of the things we do is we do a lot of checking on inventory. So we will be checking this website for properties for the foreseeable future until they show up. But keep an eye on Jonesboro. You might hit it on a day where there's properties available here too. So I will put links for these resources, the Commissioner State Land, the different land banks. I'll drop that into the comments for reference. And if you know something about Fulton County and Cherokee Village that you don't mind sharing, let us know. We'd love to start a chat with you. And I hope this was helpful. It's continuing again that series of off-season tax investing as we're closing out the year. And before you know it, we'll be in auction season, and we won't even be talking about the off-season until next year. So I hope this has been helpful, and have a great day.